Hello my friends, and let's go straight to the big news about the Russian-Ukrainian war. For example, many of the officials in Ukraine and outside Ukraine are speaking about the possible next step in the Russian invasion, that Russia accumulated enough resources for one more big attack. For example, here the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said that Russia is getting ready for the jump on Ukraine from many of the directions, not excluding Kiev and western sides of Ukraine, and attack may go from the Belarusian territory. And the similar kind of information we got from our defense minister Reznikov. He said that Russia had prepared around 500,000 soldiers for the next attack. I don't know where they've took those figures. Well, it's the potential size of the current Russian army, but not all of those soldiers will be used to attack Ukraine in the next step. And I believe that Putin may start the second step in Ukrainian invasion. He may go on Kiev, but that move is absolutely suicide mission. Russia doesn't have enough resources. They don't have 500,000 soldiers in their army right now for that attack. But I would agree that they need to consolidate their forces and try to attack Ukraine once again. Otherwise, Ukraine will have new weaponry from the Western allies, and Ukraine itself is planning the counterattack during the springtime. It's not that secret anymore. Even American president and Ukrainian officials are speaking about it. So I'm gonna film quite a big video about the possible scenario. In one of my previous videos around 2 weeks ago, I said that Russia lost its chance for successful attack on Ukraine. I haven't said that they would not try to do it, but as for me, it's the suicide mission with the resource they have. And yes, in the future, obviously, I'll film a big video about the next step of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and how Ukraine will drive Russians away from its territory. Not this year, but probably the next one. I posted this video on my Telegram channel. By the way, my friends, subscribe for me over there as well. The link is in the video description. And here Putin says that they will use some sort of the weaponry that will punish the Western countries for the resources that they give to Ukraine, like tanks and airplanes. So Putin again tries to be the Dr. Evil. He wants to frighten everyone around with nuclear weapons. And by the way, that's the only card that Russia has right now. It has almost no regular army. What can I say? It's his usual rhetoric. So once in 3 or 2 months, he says the same speech again and again. Volodya, no one believes you anymore. And we have some sort of the information about the Russian nuclear program, and in my future videos I'll also tell you about it. If Putin is aware of the current situation with his nuclear weapons and people responsible for the launches, he would be scared. And actually he really is. There's the article of Financial Times with the interview with the Ukrainian military pilot who says that situation in Ukrainian air forces is getting worse each day. We're losing the pilots, airplanes and ammunition, so we need Western-made aviation, fighter jets like F-16s or F-18s, with Western-made ammunitions to fight against Russia. Without aviation, this war could not be won. And that's why I do expect that we're gonna get the fighter jets from the European allies. United States officially say that they are okay if European countries will provide Ukrainian army with the fighter jets. So basically, United States will supply those airplanes to European allies, and European allies will take them in their army and then lease them for Ukraine. As it may happen with the Swiss Leopard 2 tanks that Switzerland may sell to Poland, Slovakia and Czech Republic, and later those countries will sell those tanks or transit them to Ukrainian army. So officially, Switzerland is not supporting Ukraine directly, they support other allies. Exactly the same move I do expect from the United States of America. So from the jurisdiction, you are kind of neutral with that weaponry. And using this official scheme, even Switzerland, which is the neutral country, may compensate the tanks for the allies. And here, if we speak about this particular picture, this is the Leopard 2 A4 early modification. I already know about it because it has some sort of the panels on the sides, and later A4 modification has the armor all across the sides, and it's more thinner compared to this one. So it's pretty much the old variant, but still we do not care. It's the better thing compared to the Russian T-72 tanks. Some say that T-90 is better than this one. I would disagree, you know. It is better in its size and some kind of the characteristics, but in general, Leopard 2 is overwhelmingly better compared to the T-90. The Institute of the War researchers say that Putin is concentrating his forces on the north part of Ukraine just to deflect attention of Ukrainian army from the eastern part, and they think that probably they want to attack on Donetsk direction again. And also we got the insights that Putin's army got the order to get Donetsk and Luhansk region under their control till March. And by March, Ukrainian army is still without the major supply from the Western countries. We expect to have the tank supplies in April or May. There were some reports and even video evidence that Ukraine launched the HIMARS rockets to attack Mariupol, and we destroyed the Russian ammunition depot over there. And sometimes I read your comments saying, why doesn't Ukraine use their HIMARS systems in Bakhmut? We actually use them. If we haven't been using them, the Bakhmut city would fall already. Right, about the Patriot systems, we're gonna get our crew ready in 5 weeks. Also, Italy promised to deliver their SAMS-T air defense systems by the late spring. Also today, Ukrainian Defense Minister Reznikov said that Ukraine will not fire to the Russian territory with the long-range missiles that we're gonna get from our western allies. And we know that Crimea is the Ukrainian territory as well as Donbass, so we don't necessarily need to use the rockets against the Russian territory. We just need to destroy the Russian bases on the occupied territories. There is the new project of Antonov 225 Mriya airplane that will be available on the flight simulator, and as it was reported, the full funds from the project will go on the restoration of the real airplane that was significantly damaged after the Russian attack on 27th of February in Gostomel airport. Still, I have my personal opinion about that. We need to collect the funds not to rebuild this fantastic airplane just right now. We need to collect the funds to restore Ukrainian villages and towns. That will happen after Ukraine wins this war. This airplane is the symbol of Ukraine, and I would like to see it flies again, but we have more necessary needs right now to collect the funds for. And honestly, I'm not trusting Antonov Airlines after what they've done before the war. They had the opportunity to evacuate those airplanes. Luckily, they had the management change, and maybe the new management is superb, who knows, but still, I wouldn't be in that hurry to collect the funds for that airplane. Maybe I'm wrong, it's up to you to decide. The talks about the French Leclerc tanks continue. The President of France, Emmanuel Macron, said to the Defense Ministry to look for the opportunity to send those tanks to Ukrainian army. It doesn't mean that France will supply Ukraine with those, I think, the best tanks in the world, but the talks are continued, which is obviously a good sign. Also, France was the first country to supply Ukraine with so-called tanks on the wheels, AMX-10, which are very maneuverable but in lack of the firepower and the armor. And this is really, I think, the best tank out there. Probably K2, the South Korean one, is similar to this. But still, I think Leclerc is better. Great news for Ukraine, and I think for America as well, because the large part of the help that United States provide to Ukraine will go not from the taxpayers in America, but from the Russian oligarchs who got their savings in American banks. Because according to Manhattan Court resolution, $5.4 billion will be confiscated from the Russian oligarchs and sent to Ukraine. So it's the first deal like that. I don't know why do we have the Biden's face over here, why not the judge who gave this resolution, and it's saving lots of the money for United States themselves and also gives lots of the funds to Ukraine. great. Russia started to use the extra armor plates on their T-72B3, which is not far away from the T-90. This is clearly the sign of the weak stock armor on the standard T-72 or T-72B3 tanks. And what do they use for the extra armor? I'm out of clue, but this is the layered metal with the thickness not more than 30 millimeters. Penetratable by javelins or any kind of cumulative shells. This armor is called Contact 5 that has explosives inside, but some of those tanks were captured by Ukrainian army and we found out that there was no explosives inside. And all of the tanks that the Ukrainian army will get from the Western allies are able to penetrate this armor, even with explosives inside. Especially if we speak about the Abrams tanks, they have the most powerful shells from all of the tanks. Here is kind of interesting video. I was able to find it on the Russian publics somehow. So this is the Ukrainian drone. It is the kamikaze one. And here on the ground, you can see the BMP-3. It's the most advanced infantry vehicle that Russian army has. And the drone just flies towards it, and that's the last shot that the drone has. You may understand what happened to that vehicle, and the Ukrainian army continue to use many types of the drones, including FPV kamikaze drones. Right now, let's review the front lines, and the hotspot is Bakhmut so far, my friends. And let's zoom out and let's go a couple of days ago. You see that the Russian army is advanced over here, and also they've taken some residential area of the Bakhmut city itself. And I'm really concerned that they moved from the south here as well. If we zoom in to this place, you can see that to reach this residential area, they still need to cross the river that they haven't done so far. And if we go here, you can see that they've took some of the quarters of the city, unfortunately, and they penetrated our defense lines that were all across this river, and they're coming closer to reach this area of the city, as well as happened here on the north. They've took more territory, and unfortunately I see that in the nearby future, I think this month, Russia would have the control over this territory of the Bakhmut city. And if they cut the supplies of Chasiv Yar, if they take this part under their control, my friends, it's better for Ukrainian army to leave the Bakhmut city just to save people's lives. I haven't been thinking about this before, but really Bakhmut is a very vulnerable city if we speak about the supplies. There are just a couple of roads remaining. One goes from Chasiv Yar. This one is already cut by the Russian artillery. They're very close to it, so it's unusable for Ukrainian supplies. So basically one road is remaining, which is not okay. If Russia cuts it, in the future there will be no battle for Bakhmut. It's better to leave their place. And speaking about the possible future Russian attack, I think they'll put more forces to get Donbass under their control, but we're gonna speak about it in next video. My friends, now press the like to this video, and also if you want to support me financially, there are some of the links in the video description just below. Thank you so much for watching me. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.